The reading of all good books is like a conversation with the finest people of the past centuries. Rene Descartes. Hakim's bookstore opened in the 1950s by Dawood Hakim. It was the first Black owned bookstore in Philadelphia specializing in Black history and titles by Black authors. Hakim's has been featured on ESPN and is a historic Philadelphia landmark. I had the privilege to sit down and have a conversation with Yvonne Blake, Dawood Hakim's daughter, and current owner of the bookstore after my own book signing event.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Where are my most beautiful queens in the house? Where are my most beautiful queens in the house?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Queen's Address. We are here today in Philadelphia at Hakim's bookstore with very special guest, Miss Yvonne Blake. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hello. And so today we're just so honored to be here. Hakim's bookstore has been honored with the Blue Historical Marker. How does that feel for you?
It's overwhelming, and I'm really happy that my father, who passed away in 1997, is finally getting the recognition that I feel he deserved.
Yes, ma'am. All righty. Well, it's been 64 years?
64 years,
64 years providing books and culture in West Philadelphia. You are keeping your father's legacy going. Could you talk a little bit about why legacy is so important to you and your family?
Because my father was a trailblazer in opening the bookstore. We are the first and the oldest African-American bookstore opened in Philadelphia around 1959. And my father became interested in selling books about African-American history after coming across some books by the noted historian J.A. Rogers. He wrote 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro and the 5 Negro Presidents. And those two books really impressed him because he started reading about things that he had never been taught in school. He learned that our history didn't start with slavery, and that became a passion for him to educate people about our culture, not just African Americans, but everybody, because this information wasn't being taught in school.
All right, so it's probably safe to say he was fueled by his passion.
Yes.
To make sure that he could impact the lives of people that he felt needed the knowledge. And
that
a lot
is
of
correct.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad for that. So you give space to indie authors such as myself with the prototype. Everybody go cop that on Amazon. And for that, I am grateful for the opportunity to be here today. And you give authors a chance, and you offer something that big stores can't. And so why consider the indie authors in your store?
Because everybody has to start somewhere. And my father got some assistance when he started out. He didn't know what to do. He started out selling books out of the trunk of his car. And it was a while before he was able to open his first brick and mortar store. And through the years, I'm aware of the fact that people would write him, and he had friends all over that would ask him for advice about opening bookstores or about writing a book. And I know for a fact that he put a lot of people's independent writers' books on his shelves.
Absolutely.
To give them the opportunity once he was established.
Absolutely. And so it's not just talking the talk. He's walking the walk.
Yes,
and you're keeping that going. I'm so grateful for that. And my next question is going to be a little bit more personal. What is a little known book that you would like to see make it big? Like a New York Times bestseller kind of, do you have one of those books that you've read that you say, you know what, I hope everybody gets a chance to read this book?
The Autobiography of Malcolm X.
Mm.
I read it as a teenager. I read it again when I was older. Of course, it had a different effect on me each time. And it really tells a story of a man who really found himself. He started out one way through education and reading and talking to people. He became the person that he was.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I think I read that book when I was about 16.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had it. It was a little like kind of, the pages were kind of like a little bit more ivory. And you could
Yes.
tell he had highlighted certain parts. Those are the best books to read to me.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that they have like, oh, this is the good point, you know. And so Alex Haley's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one that's the one I read as well. And so go get that, and you go come to Hakim's, okay?
Order it online.
Order it online. That's a good one.
From Hakim's.
Absolutely. And so, when you're reading a book, what is your reading preference? Do you prefer biographies or self-help or novels?
I like self-help and novels. Anything that's going to make me a better person. I also like books on religion because, you know, that's a topic that's like endless, causes lots of problems. And just to try to find, especially at the age that I am, to just try to figure out why am I here? What was I supposed to do? You know, and to share my experiences and to see what other people's experiences are by reading their books.
That's good. That's awesome. And so, as a book owner, well, a bookstore owner, what's one of the biggest challenges that you faced in running your shop here in Philly?
Well, competition one, and we're pretty much a niche bookstore. The fact that we've kind of stayed true to what our original model was. Right. You know, we don't sell coffee, we don't sell cookies, we don't do any of this. And I love those stores.
It's books,
but we specialize in books on African American history and children's books and on the education piece of reading.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the challenge is just, keeping inventory and finding funding.
Absolutely.
You know, there were periods of time when the economy tanks, nobody's reading books. Then we were closed during COVID. We had problems, but we got a lot of support from the community. We've been in this community for a long time, so it encouraged us to keep going because we have almost closed a couple times.
Yeah, no, I understand. We had a conversation earlier, you know, and then sometimes when you see stores like Barnes & Noble and things like that, and they have a machine helping them with expenses and any, you know, slow seasons, and if there's like snowstorm season, and you know, sometimes the stores that are more geared toward independent specialty books, you know, and things like that, sometimes the struggle is enough to make you say, you know what, you know, but you guys have been here and you guys are going to be here another 64 years on top of that.
I won't
so I'm
be
gonna
here.
claim that. And I
believe
believe that what you all have here is very special, and I hope it stays here until the end of time. And so, what book is your greatest treasure and why?
You kind of put me on the spot there. I can't off the top of my head.
Well, I have a book that my dad left for. It's called African Folklore, and he wrote in it. And my dad passed in 2020, and so to like go and see, you know, his signature, and then he used to have stamps. He would put his the stamps that had his name, address, you know, if lost, please return to. And so it's a really great book about African folklore, different tribes and different stories from different villages all throughout the continent. But for me, it's probably my, you know, that, and then in another book, Andrew Hacker. Two Nations by Andrew Hacker. Okay. And I remember watching that author, Andrew Hacker, on, I want to say it was the Donahue Show or the Oprah Show years ago. And I remember he said, I'm going to have to get that book. And I remember it as a kid, sitting there doing my homework on the floor and watching it with them. And I said, you know what? And so I have that book. And I've never even read it completely through. But I have it because he said, I'm going to have to get that book, because he always got books. That's what he was into. And I would probably say those two are my favorite, like, most treasured books. But I'm pretty sure you have one or at least two.
Yeah, and I'm just J.A. Rogers from Superman to Man.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I haven't finished it. I've started it a couple of times, but you know, the the subject matter and the way the book is written, I like that.
Can you talk a little bit about why bookstores are so relevant in the internet age that we live in today?
Because I think people need to have that human contact. That's why we pride ourselves on customer service here. We special order books for customers. We'll go out of our way trying to find out of print books, hard to find books. The internet isn't necessarily going to do that, and then you just don't have a connection with anybody. Absolutely. I have people come into the store that knew my father, even now, that tell me, your father gave me my first book. Wow. He used to give books to young men that couldn't afford a book, but he said he was a taskmaster because when they came back again, he quizzed them on the book. And I just feel it's important to stress education. And I've been reading since I was 5. I love books, and I like to hold a book in my hand. Absolutely. So that's another reason why I'm not all that gung-ho about getting books off the internet or doing ebooks or Kindles or any of that stuff.
It's not the same.
I like to actually hold
like
a book.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's just so important for independent bookstores and bookstores in general, if they're going to carry books that are beneficial to the public, especially with what's going on in the world today. Absolutely. Especially the fact that in mainstream bookstores, you can't get a lot of the books that we carry that deal with real African American history not just, Malcolm, not just Martin Luther King and the people that they threw at us when we were in school. I didn't learn about the Tulsa race riots until about 10 years ago.
Right.
Never heard of them, didn't know what was going on, and it's ridiculous to hide history.
Right. Because I think omission is the same as lying.
Yes.
In a lot of instances, like we see what's going on in Florida, and they're banning books and things like that. And I'm like, you can ban it, and you could call it this, or they don't need to learn about slavery. They're going to hate America. And like, well, it's actually a part of American history.
It is a part of her history, and I didn't know about Ruby Bridges and what that little girl went through. I mean, everybody in school should know about her and what she had to go through just to get an education,
just to be able to read. And can you talk a little bit to the younger the viewers who are watching why it was illegal for the slaves to read and why it's so important for them to want to read in 2023?
Well, I was just talking about this with somebody the other day about what kind of people make it against the law to teach someone to read. And the whole idea behind that was to keep us uneducated and to keep us under control. And that just makes no sense to me. And, and it was a horrible thing to do. And what they're trying to do in Florida is the same thing all over again.
History repeating itself.
And thank God there were some of the rich children, the white children, actually taught their playmates how to read. And then it was against the law if they found out you could read, and you were punished. And that just goes against everything I believe in.
That's right.
So I have sometimes parents bring their kids into the store and the kids are playing with their phones or whatnot, and they say, what book do you want? And they're looking at them like, book? What do you want me to do with this book? And, it's just so important because, as they said, it used to be cliche. You can be transported to so many places by reading a book. You can learn so much about people that you don't know anything about, that you've never seen. Just, the people that are just in your circle. Well, there's a whole world out here.
Absolutely.
When I first started traveling, I was just like amazed at everything that was there because you take for granted the little pocket that you live in. And there's a whole world out there that doesn't have to look like you for you to be able to understand and to get along with.
Absolutely. My daughter is 16 and she's an avid reader. In your store, what book do you think you could recommend to someone who's 16 years old? Like, would it be a novel or science fiction?
Well, no, some of the self-help books to help the young ladies prepare themselves for adulthood, like one that we've carried for a long time is Ayanna Van Zant's oh God, now I can't think of the title of it. Don't give it away.
Don't give it away.
Don't give it away.
Don't give it away.
Yeah, don't give it away. It's got a journal in it. Anything that uplifts our young women so that they know that they have a place and that they should have self-respect, and that in order to they have to have respect themselves first in order for other people to respect them.
Absolutely. Shout out to Ayanna Van Zant. Don't give it away.
Don't give it away.
Yes. They can come and find that book here at Hakim's Bookstore. And so before we were approaching our time here, but I had a question. I was interviewing you and I was looking at your eyes. Your eyes light up when you speak about your father. I don't know if you know that.
No, it's probably because I'm about to cry because
no,
I
no.
cry during all my interviews. My family teases me now because it is a subject that really means a lot to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Because my father went through so much to get here. I mean, he was even investigated by the FBI. They had it was COINTELPRO. They were investigating black bookstores. Instead of trying to encourage people to be educated, they used to stand across the street, but he used to laugh at them. He knew they were there, and it didn't stop anything that he was trying to do because he knew he wasn't doing anything wrong. So that's why I get emotional when I think about the store and all that he sacrificed in order to get to where we are today.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, we appreciate.
You weren't supposed to ask me that question.
No.
I was doing good. I was doing good.
Well, it's something that I noticed when you would talk about your father. You would literally light up and like fight a smile a little bit, and so I just wanted you to talk a little bit about why it means so much. I feel like my voice is about to crack. I'm the biggest empath you'll ever meet because I can feel you. I can feel it. I lost my dad in 2020, and my dad. Hey,
this
allergy
is great.
season is just something else. Okay, the ragweed is starting, so
yeah, it's my allergies.
Just the ragweed is terrible this time of year. But my dad, I was talking to my cousin the other day, and we were raised by men. My mother, she was our nurturer. She was, shout out to mom. She showed us how to be a lady, but our fathers and our uncles raised us.
Okay.
Listen, a lady should sit like this. When you talk, you don't want to yell. Don't be boisterous. You want to do this. You don't want to act like this. You carry yourself like a lady. Every man in the room will pull his pants up and talk right. And they'll stop cursing if a lady walks in the room.
Right.
A woman who knows her power, she walks to the room and gets every man's attention if she knows her power. And so he would say things, and he like kind of sculpted who I was going to be as a human being, but most importantly, a black woman.
Right.
He would say, you're the queen of civilization. Put your shoulders back.
That's right.
Walk like you. And so when you spoke about your dad, it made me think of my dad. And so what's one of the greatest lessons that your father shared with you?
To follow your dreams, to not let anybody else define you, and to always know your self-worth. And also he had a big thing about not having negative energy around him. He just always told us to stay positive, remove the things that aren't good for you, like that are making you unhappy, or that are not the right things, and to just be positive.
Absolutely. Well, that's an incredible message, Miss Yvonne Blake.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much
joining us on the Queen's Address today. And how can the audience follow you on social media?
Our website is hakimsbookstore.com. Our Facebook page is Hakim's Bookstore, and our Instagram page is @Hakim's Bookstore.
Okay, sounds great. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the Queen's Address, and we'll see you next time. Peace, Queen. Peace, King. Take care. All righty.